And ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, my name is Admiral Radish. I will be your PR director and launch commentator for today. Today we are joined by Grateful Deadbeat, who will be our launch director and mission controller, as we are looking here on the screen at Polyphemus 1. This is a mission launching from the Hammaguir French Test Center, which is carrying 3 Kerbonauts, Yuri Gagarin, Scott Kent, and Marcia Craigson, to the surface of asteroid PCP-666, where they will leave behind a relay and science experiments to study the asteroid as it moves away from Earth. We expect the mission to take approximately 10 to 11 days, and the asteroid appears to be on a period of roughly 147 years before it will have another intercept with Earth, like this one. We are looking today at a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, launching from Hammaguir. Once again, Yuri, Scott, and Marcia on board. If you're just tuning in now, we'll be continuing with live launch commentary through the next 45 minutes, as well as a look at the mission countdown timer here in just a few. I'm Admiral Radish, and thank you for joining us here this morning as we look at Polyphemus 1 on the pad.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is your launch director, Grateful Deadbeat speaking. And we are looking and tracking the weather today. It is partly overcast, but most of these clouds are nothing that we're going to have to worry about. They're moving fast in the upper atmosphere, and between them is quite a bit of beautiful blue sky here in Algeria. Once again, we are at the Hammaguir French Test Facility in Algeria, and we'll be launching in just over 40 minutes now.
And you just heard a call out there from Mission Control, Grateful Deadbeat. We're looking at some overcast clouds above Algeria here, but we're still tracking green for launch as we hit T-minus 40 minutes until the launch of the Polyphemus 1 crew. Some more information about today's launch. Yuri Gagarin will be the pilot today. He was the first Kerbal in space. This will be his third trip. He was just recently in space on the Leo 2 mission, where he was alongside the scientist for today's mission, Scott Kent. He was the first tenured scientist at the CSS and is launching again after re-entering 5 days ago alongside Yuri, and they were both on a 6-week CSS mission. The engineer for today's launch is Marcia Craigson, who is a veteran from the Regolith 1 missions. She was the first female Kerbal to fly around the moon and the most experienced engineer employed by either agency at this time. This is the first all-star crew of Kerbals. All of these are experienced and tenured Kerbonauts as they get ready to fly to intercept asteroid PCP-666, which is a Class E asteroid that was discovered back on March 5th, and shortly afterwards, planning for this mission began. One other interesting fact about today's crew, Marcia Craigson is the only Kerbal aboard with experience outside of low Earth orbit. It's important to note none of the crew members will be leaving the SOI of Earth today. We do not anticipate at any point they will be leaving the sphere of influence. All of this, including launch, intercept, the building on the surface, and then re-entry, will all be taking place over the course of the next 10 to 12 days, and it starts right here from Algeria in just around 38 minutes. Now as we're coming up to 36 minutes, T-minus 36 minutes to launch, some information about the countdown today and what we're expecting. Now we'll be launching at approximately 16:36 on the dot, here from Hammaguir. which is in Algeria. We're going to be heading about 54 degrees northeast right after launch, and we'll see our first major go-no-go decision at about T-minus 10 minutes as we do target tracking and final visual assessment. That will involve looking at the tracking center, the orbital parameters of the asteroid, where we are here on the rocket. We'll do a final staging check at T-minus 6 minutes, a go for launch call out, and our final go no-go poll at T-minus 5 minutes. If we have a green for launch there, we'll expect crew arm retraction. And then we'll see some camera changes in the mission overview at about T-minus 3 minutes, and the standby for launch when we enter the terminal count at T-minus 1 minute. So 34 minutes now until we hit that terminal count. Let's talk a little bit about what's on the pad today. We have great picture-in-picture views coming from the launch pad camera there and the launch camera vehicle, which is sitting there over on the runway in Hammaguir. On the bottom there, the Staghorn 6 booster, now on its third major operational launch. This is a hefty booster, costs about 700,000 funds when fully loaded. There's 6 engines there on the bottom, which allow them to be shut down in pairs and reduce the G-load of those engines. Starts at about 2,700 tons when fully loaded. There's those engines that we're talking about. And this is, as I said, the third operational mission of this craft. So those engines there, they can be shut down in opposing pairs, which allows us to reduce the G-load on the vehicle. Not so important when we're doing large probe launches, or interstellar launches, I should say interplanetary launches. But today, when we have crew on board, and those crew are experienced, we want to make sure we take the utmost care. So we do have the ability to shut down those engines in pairs. Do not be surprised if you see that during today's launch. We have to send these guys quite fast in order to reach intercept with PCP-666. Now looking, we can see up there, there's the second stage, just above those aero brakes. That's the orbital insertion stage. Unfortunately, this is the stage that does not typically have any fuel left over at the kind of delta V margins we're talking about today. So it's very likely that that is going to be left as orbital debris. Unfortunate, but just the situation we're left with today. Up on top, at the very end there, we have the Polyphemus crew module and the service module. It has a cost of about 163,000 funds, Wolfhound engine, solar-powered, crew re-entry module. But the key to this mission is the payload bay, just below the crew re-entry module, which contains about 25 construction parts, which our crew are going to be assembling. Yes, just below that view right there, which our crew are going to be assembling on the surface of the asteroid, giving us a permanent, powered installation on the surface of another body as it leaves the sphere of influence of Earth. So that will be a permanent installation put in place by this crew that will not come around to Earth again for 147 years. So very exciting stuff. Extremely valuable craft, one of our best science missions, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, sitting there on the pad in Algeria this morning, still counting down to that launch time of 16:36 UTC. If you're just tuning in, live views on the pad, picture-in-picture, one from our launch camera vehicle being operated by a separate computer, and then one from our in-launch pad cameras here as we look at the Polyphemus 1 mission, which will be launching here in just about 30 minutes. 3 crew on board, all prepared, all ready, all experienced. Yuri, Scott, and Marcia ready to head out of low Earth orbit to intercept the asteroid PCP-666. Here we can see we're getting an updated view there. On the right side, we can see the live view from the launch pad tower looking down on the craft. This is the crew arm retraction, and then there on the bottom, we can see the engines of the craft. Those are the Staghorn 6. That's why it's called 6 right there, which will be lifting the crew off here in just under 30 minutes. Once again, we'll be heading about 54 degrees after takeoff. Getting ready for final checks as we approach that first major mile marker at T-minus 10 minutes. If you're just joining us, we're awaiting the countdown and launch here of the Polyphemus 1 mission. 3 crew members aboard, all experienced crew members. Still doing internal checks. The only items we're tracking today: launch vehicle, good to go. Second stage, crew capsule, service module, all good to go. Some big fluffy clouds overhead that do not appear to be a problem at this time. So the only thing we're waiting for is final orbital checks intercept checks, which will take place at approximately T-minus 10 minutes. We'll be launching to a Class E asteroid today, a very large asteroid with the expectation of intercept, approach, and then grabbing onto the asteroid to begin in-space construction, where we'll be attaching a claw, girders, permanent probe assembly, as well as communication and cameras to be left on the surface of the asteroid as the crew departs. The entire span of the mission expected to take approximately 10 to 12 days, with some adjustment on either side depending on the accuracy of launch today, how long it takes us to make the intercept maneuver, fuel considerations, as well as when they decide to depart the asteroid. The longer we stay there, the faster we get going. As we get towards our periapsis, that's going to require a greater amount of fuel. So to extend our mission time will require more accuracy, more fuel here on the front end. However, we are looking green for launch, good to go so far. Awaiting the first major mission check, which should take place here at T-minus 10 in about 15 minutes. Now we're inside 22.5 minutes to launch. I am Admiral Radish, your PR director for today, also head of the CASA Space Agency. We're joined in the background by Grateful Deadbeat, the flight director for today's mission, also the mission designer for the Polyphemus 1 launch. He'll be doing the ascent and intercept planning for today. Looking at a launch time of 16:36 UTC from Hammaguir here in Algeria. Looking sunny now, we can see some openings in the cloud above. That's exactly what we're targeting for today's launch. So far, with just under 22 minutes to go, things are looking good. 3 excited crew members on board as we plan for those final mission checks. Now, just under 12 minutes till those first mission checks. Now getting a look inside the capsule. Look at what the crew is seeing right there. There's Marcia. Ready to go. And on the other side, we've got Yuri. All looking great. Live camera views here from the suit of Scott Kent. They're strapped in, looking up, currently underneath that safety arrow shell, which is attached to the launch escape system. A little bit about the assembled vehicle today. Once again, the Staghorn 6 booster on the bottom. Rhino insertion stage in the middle, just above those aero brakes there. And then on top, we have the crew, capsule, and service module under the safety aero shell. Not tracking any current vehicle problems, no current issues. As we are awaiting now just about 10 minutes to the first mission checks. We'll see a map review, we'll see an orbital insertion check, and very last of all, we'll see a go, no-go pull and crew arm retraction just at about T minus 5 minutes. Now inside 19 minutes to launch. You can see the CAPS flag on the ground there in the background. CAPS represents both the SPES agency and the CASA agency as a joint initiative, particularly in missions where crew are involved, and collaboration is in benefit to all of the astronauts. So that view we're getting right there, now seen live from the pad views, just on the outside of the launch radius. Getting a live picture-in-picture view now of the crew there, crewed vessel there on the launch pad. Two different angles. Still waiting for another weather call out. We can see some of those overcast clouds appear to be clearing out. We're waiting on confirmation from the mission crew. Vessel looks good to go. Pad looks good to go. Everything so far is indicating we are in line for a successful launch, with some final orbital tracking done of the asteroid itself this morning. We'll show some details on that here in just a little bit.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is your flight director, Grateful Deadbeat speaking. Today we are looking and tracking the clouds over Hammaguir, Algeria. And within the next 15 minutes, it does look like we have clear skies moving our way. And there will be none of these soft, fluffy clouds, which we were not even anticipating to be a problem anyway. So on that regard, the weather is go. We have another good point for a go for launch.
And you heard that call out there from the mission director. Weather is clearing up like we anticipated, and currently tracking go for launch in 16 minutes, T-minus 16 until launch. Some more information about the mission today. This will be taking off from Algeria, approximately 54 degrees, in a preparation for more maneuvering. The maneuver will put it on an intercept with the asteroid PCP-666. That asteroid is currently just inside the sphere of influence of Earth, about 800 million meters away from Earth right now, more than 2 times the distance to the Moon, if my math serves me correct. Currently targeting about T-minus 15 minutes right now. After launch today, we'll see the recovery of the Staghorn booster. That is a recoverable booster. We've seen values as high as 478,000 funds from the recovery of that booster. After that, we'll see the Rhino stage do a lot of the heavy lifting from the middle portion of today's launch, low Earth orbit, preparation for the intersect. Unfortunately, that stage will be left as debris, although given the position it's going to be left at, we're not concerned about its impact on future missions. This is a very unusual inclination, distance, and target due to the unique nature of this mission, so we do expect that should not be a problem in the future. And then lastly, we'll see the service module and the crew module head to the asteroid, perform today's mission, and then head home where it will be decoupled, and then both parts should re-enter into the atmosphere. Planning on a safe splashdown for the crew, Yuri, Scott, and Marcia, in about 11 days. While in space, the recoverable booster, which is autonomous after separation, will be helped by our deep space network, which is comprised of a series of relays and other ground-based assets, geosynchronous satellites, live missions that are all placed around Earth in order to enable maximum communication. You may have been watching along on a previous stream where we sent out the replacement for the current geosync satellite that's located over Asia. That one's still in low Earth orbit awaiting a refueling probe, at which point it will be sent off to geosynchronous orbit to replace the existing DSN geosync relay that's over Asia. So that geosynchronous network will be helping us out today and over the next 12 days as this crew heads off to the asteroid PCP-666 in now just under 13 minutes. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the fun to begin as we approach T-minus 10 minutes. What we're expecting to see here, we'll see target tracking and final visual assessment start here any second now, as we'll begin to look and make sure that the launch site we're taking off from, which is Hammaguir, will be underneath the correct location, correct inclination here now. T-minus 10 minutes. T-minus 10 minutes. Here in about 4 more minutes, we'll see final staging checks as well. That takes place typically at T-minus 6 minutes. And then at T-minus 5, we'll see the final go for launch call out and the crew arm retraction. We'll also see the warning lights there turn green on the launch pad, the base of the launch pad. That's those rotating warning lights, letting everybody know that a launch will be occurring shortly, that the area needs to be safed and cleared. We can see now we're seeing that final intercept check, that inclination check for the asteroid. It's looking good so far. Looking like we're going to be able to launch into a successful location, shutting off some of the other erroneous orbit lines. So asteroid PCP 666, you'll see will be exiting Earth in about 26 days. That should be well after the end of our mission, but the goal today is that on board it will be carrying with it science, cameras, relays, and electrical equipment constructed by our crew here, the Polyphemus crew, with their payload on board. They're on top of the rocket, should be heading off here now in just about 8 minutes and 40 seconds, waiting for those final staging checks here to start in just over 2.5 minutes. Now some more information about today after the launch. We'll plan on a jettison of the escape system. Once they're up above the atmosphere, we'll see the ignition of the Rhino engine, the engine shutdown and maneuver planning, deployment of the solar panels in the dish, and then a number of orbital maneuvers, including intercept adjustments that will accompany approximately a 2-day transit period. So once the asteroid is intercepted, there will be a standoff period, an approach period, intercept, and hopefully grabbing of the asteroid, and then EVA construction of the relay base, which will be attached to the surface as part of that intercept. The Staghorn booster, there on the bottom, which is now in operational use, should burn for approximately the first 4 to 4.5 minutes, based on mission experience so far. After that point, the extra fuel will be enabled, allowing the verners to maneuver to a retrograde orientation. The aerobrakes will come out. We'll count down to re-entry interface, and then after the aerobrakes stow, we'll see parachute deployment and splashdown of the Staghorn 6, and that will end its portion in today's mission. No recovery for the second stage today. It will not get as gentle a fate. It will likely be left in space as orbital debris as a result of today's mission profile, this weird inclination, extremely high altitude, speed of intercept with the asteroid, but no worries about the final position and placement of that stage after today's launch. So just about 45 seconds now until we see those final staging checks, as we're getting good views now of the booster on the launch pad here in Algeria. 30 seconds until those staging checks. The crew on board today, talk about them one last time before liftoff. We have Yuri Gagarin as our pilot. He was the very first Kerbal in space on our save, and this will be his 3rd trip to space. Obviously his initial transit up above the atmosphere, a very high moment, high point for our server. Then he was on board the Leo 2 mission to the Collaborative Space Station, now at T-minus 6 minutes. On board that Leo 2 mission to the Collaborative Space Station, alongside today's scientist, Scott Kent, who was also on that Leo 2 mission. He was the first tenured scientist at the CSS and was there for approximately 6 weeks alongside Yuri. So launching together again, they landed just 5 days ago and were both selected for this mission. We needed a skilled pilot and a skilled scientist in order to go along and make maximum use of this rare opportunity. And so those two were able, willing, and ready to go. Yuri Gagarin and Scott Kent, pilot and scientist. And they are joined today by Marcia Craigson, the engineer, veteran of the Regolith 1 mission, flew by the moon, most experienced engineer in our current CAP space agency. Between both of the agencies, she's the most experienced, and she's the only Kerbal on board with experience outside of low Earth orbit. Very important today as we hit T-minus 5 minutes. Expecting that crew arm retraction.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your flight director, Grateful Deadbeat. We are now officially go for launch as we see our crew arm retraction beginning at the T-minus 5 minute mark. I repeat, we are go for launch.
And a great call out now. A great call out from our mission director as we are go for launch. I repeat, here we are go for launch T-minus 4 minutes and 30 seconds as we are currently planning for liftoff of Yuri, Scott, and Marcia here from the surface in just under 4.5 minutes. The asteroid we'll be going towards today was discovered on March 5th, 2026. It's the PCP-666 Class E asteroid. We're approximately in about 1.5 kilometers across, although we have not been able to make any visual observations of the asteroid at this time. It's not been compared to any other current asteroids that we have tracked around Earth, and so the final size will not be determined until we get to make a visual observation during approach here in a few days. This is on a near-Earth orbit, an NEO orbit around the Sun. It has a phasing resonance. It passes by Earth within a few million, billion meters every 28 years, but the actual next intercept with Earth will not be for approximately 147 years in 2173. The estimates put its last pass of Earth, according to the mission director and recent observations, last happened 1955. The total craft today, the Polyphemus 1 mission, is just the first of planned asteroid missions. We do hope to go to two other captured asteroids here around the Earth system. It's 86 meters tall, 104 meters with the launch pad attached, and weighs about 2,800, almost 2,900 tons with everything attached. So as we enter within T-minus 3 minutes, a quick review of the final countdown today. We'll have our standby for launch at T-minus 1 minute, sparkler ignition at 5 seconds, engine ignition at 0 seconds, and we should have our liftoff call out and tower clear within the first 10 seconds of launch. Once we have approximately 1,500 meters of altitude, we'll see the engines throttle down, and about 42 kilometers, we'll see the engine group 1 shut down. That's that closing of engines in pairs, engine fuel valves in pairs, which allow us to keep the G-forces low. After separation of the Staghorn booster, it will return, orient retrograde, open its aero brakes, and come back to us, hopefully for a recovery. And the Polyphemus mission will jettison the launch escape system, ignite the Rhino engines, and continue upward to orbit. We're now within 2 minutes to launch. If you're just joining us, we are awaiting eagerly the launch of the Polyphemus 1 mission, which will be intercepting an asteroid in a few days' time, with 3 of our CAPS crew members aboard atop the Staghorn 6 booster. We've been counting down now for more than an hour, 47 minutes here on stream, and we're eager and ready to go. Now within those last few seconds, as we hit the terminal count, T-minus 1 minute, we'll expect ignition of the sparklers at T-minus 5 seconds, engine ignition at 0, and then liftoff shortly afterwards as we send Yuri, Scott, and Marcia away. T-minus 1 minute as we leave you before the T-minus 10 countdown. And T-minus 30 seconds to launch. T-minus 30 seconds to launch. T-minus 20. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, sparkler ignition, 4, 3, 2, 1, engine ignition, and liftoff! Liftoff of the Polyphemus 1 mission, now outbound from Algeria at 16:36 UTC, heading to intercept asteroid PCP-666, and to place our first ever piece of science on the surface of another body, which will exit the area of Earth. As we hit 2 kilometers now above the surface, we can see 3 crew members on board, and we're now past 140 meters per second of speed. Actively ascending now, actively ascending. So we're planning for approximately a 54-degree intercept angle with the asteroid. Remember, this first stage, the Staghorn 6 booster, is an operational booster here, which gives us the ability to launch extremely heavy loads at high speeds and be recovered. Now T plus 1 minute. T plus 1 minute since launch. Looking now as we pass 10 kilometers, continuing to accelerate closer and closer to our maximum aerodynamic pressure. Now 15 kilometers and accelerating. Once again, we'll see a planned engine group 1 shutdown, if not triggered by G-force, approximately 42 kilometers. Everything is looking good to go. We've got 3 crew members on board. Staghorn 6 performing nominally. Orbital insertion so far performing nominally. Passing 32 kilometers, 10 more left on that first engine group, as we're coming up on T plus 2 minutes since launch. Now above the surface of Algeria, ascending towards an intercept with the asteroid. And we've seen first shutdown of those engine groups, first shutdown, as we hit 50 kilometers, continuing to ascend, all looking good so far, not tracking any current issues. Stand by for shutdown of that second engine group here. Getting our first view of the orbital parameters. And a slight adjustment as we continue to burn towards space. Yuri, Scott, and Marcia aboard. Pilot, scientist, and engineer. Now T plus 3 minutes, and all looking good. Currently, you can see we're tracking that inclination angle. As we talked about just before launch, that inclination angle has impacts on the final accuracy of the launch overall, as well as our ability to maneuver and how long we get to stay at the asteroid. The longer we want to stay, the more fuel we're going to need to return. So having a more accurate launch is going to enable us to have a more experiential time while we're at the asteroid itself. Now we've seen shutdown of that second engine group. We're on just the last 2 engines of the Staghorn 6 booster. Just a reminder that this is a recoverable booster. We're seeing it burn now, full speed, towards low Earth orbit. And we have main engine cutoff. Now we'll see a couple different things at once. We'll see the throttle down and the separation of the launch escape system. We'll see the decoupling of the Staghorn 6 booster. There we go. We're seeing everything come apart right there. There are our aeroshells deployed. RCS has been enabled. Waiting for separation there of the second stage from the Staghorn 6 booster. There we go, seeing now T plus 5 minutes separation. We're seeing some distance. And we're seeing throttle up of the second stage. That's that Rhino stage that we talked about. As the Staghorn 6 will now get reconfigured for re-entry here in just a few minutes. Waiting for a call out of positive control on the Staghorn 6 booster. And now at T plus 6.5 minutes, we can confirm we have positive control on the Staghorn 6 booster. We can still see the Polyphemus 1 mission on screen there ascending. Currently all is tracking well here. Now 6 minutes and 45 seconds after launch, you can see there, finally revealed from its aeroshell fairing, we have the final service module stage as well as the crew module there at the top of the craft. We have that Rhino kick stage pushing away, getting us into orbit in preparation for planning for intercept and adjustment with the asteroid. And we have positive affirmative control here of the Staghorn 6 booster, and we should be getting imagery from there very shortly. And there we go now, T plus 8 minutes, we can see we are getting faded in live picture-in-picture views there. The Staghorn 6 booster now coming back to us, currently at an altitude approximately 423 kilometers. Just getting ready to start descending now. We have the aero brakes extended, burner thrusters firing, and at the same time we can see we are getting live views of the Polyphemus crew now in orbit above the surface of the Earth. Go ahead and do a quick adjustment of that picture-in-picture view really quick. So you can see now Polyphemus and the Staghorn 6 at the same time. Just a great view there. Great views now, T plus 9.5 minutes. Everything is looking great. The Staghorn 6 booster is descending. Currently locked on that retrograde orbit, exactly where we need it to be. Polyphemus continuing to progress around its orbit. Be targeting some slight adjustments over the course of the next 30 minutes. As we see those orbital adjustments taking place in the background, we'll pull up this full view. There it is. Now 10 minutes since it was on the ground in Algeria, the Staghorn 6 booster getting ready to descend through the atmosphere. At the same time, getting a nice look at both views here. 370 kilometers on the Staghorn 6 booster. And getting a nice view of those orbital maneuvers, that orbital planning that's taking place up in the Polyphemus crew capsule right now. Live work with mission control and the crew on board to get us there on time, on target, in budget, and with enough fuel left to get home. Next major target's going to be orbital corrections on the Polyphemus side and atmosphere interface for the Staghorn 6 booster. Alrighty, now at 250 kilometers there on the Staghorn 6 booster. Continuing to await atmospheric interface. This is going to definitely be a fast re-entry for the booster, but nothing that it has not experienced before. We'll fade to that full view there here shortly as we get closer to final interface, but so far things looking good on both fronts of the mission. Now as we get to 13.5 minutes, should be hitting re-entry interface in just about 15 seconds now. 165, 160. And we're now within the atmosphere. Now T plus 14 minutes in the atmosphere. We're going to see a very, very fast deceleration here. So we should see those thruster engines come back on now as we hit 100 kilometers, 100 kilometers. We'll see the engines gimbling. Still accelerating as we hit now that lower portion of the atmosphere. Deceleration starting. And there we have the thermal heating. Now decelerating rapidly, we'll see those G-forces climb. Still maintaining positive control as those thrusters work overtime to keep orientation correct. We're coming down through the high-speed regimen, and we should have positive control now. We see those aero brakes coming back in, thrusters coming off at about 312 meters per second. Terminal velocity and decelerating. That is another successful re-entry for the Staghorn 6 booster. As we await final deploy here in just a minute of those parachutes. And we see parachute deploy coming out right now, 8,000 meters. Looks like we will be doing a ground touchdown today. A ground touchdown here on the Staghorn 6 booster. And looks like our final touchdown location will be the northern areas of the Middle East and far eastern Mediterranean Sea, south of Greece. And there we see final parachute expansion, deceleration down to a nice and cozy, just about 6.5 meters per second. Little bit of an unsteady camera view from Algeria today, but we can see descending there. And as we wait for final touchdown there on the side, we should be getting live views of the final picked maneuver here in just a second. Now in the last 50 meters, and we see touchdown of the bottom half. Those last parachutes just bringing down the top. And with that, we have a successful touchdown of the Staghorn 6 booster on its third operational mission, successfully being recovered in the north of Africa in the far eastern Mediterranean. A ground touchdown this time, as the Polyphemus mission successfully in orbit, 17 minutes and 50 seconds since launch. So, a mission recap so far. Launch on time at 16:36 UTC out of Hammaguir. Successfully launched into orbit. Main engine cut off exactly when anticipated, and a successful recovery of the Staghorn 6 booster, which is now currently being processed for return as it lays there in the desert. And we're getting live views now from Mission Control as the Polyphemus 1 mission crew capsule with everything on board, crew and probe equipment, is getting ready for its next maneuver in order to intercept the asteroid PCP-666. So looking there, getting some live views of what that looks like here. You can see the maneuver itself is going to take place in, is that the one in an hour and 1 minute approximately? 41 minutes and 45 seconds, followed up by another maneuver, which will do exact correction, and then in 12 days, Earth periapsis, which is the maximum possible return point for our crew. So far, things are looking good. You can see a stable orbit, maneuver, and then an intercept in 8 days and 41 minutes. That time can be adjusted based on future maneuvers, but we can see that intersect right there, just under 100 kilometers at a distance hundreds and hundreds of millions of meters away. waiting for a final confirmation check and status read back on the state of the Stagacorn 6 booster following recovery. We do like to talk about the position and the state of those boosters after recovery. Once again, costs about 700,000 on liftoff. And after recovery today, we received back 465,000 funds. So more than half, well over half of the value back from that booster upon recovery today. As now we're getting good views of the Polyphemus now in the darkness of Earth. Its first launch just 20 minutes ago. So we're waiting for the first maneuver now in just about 45 minutes, 40 minutes now. We'll leave you with the views for now as we continue to wait for that next maneuver. A quick note from Mission Control, we'll do the question and answer session as is standard for these larger launches at T plus 35 minutes. T plus 35 minutes. Send along any questions. Any questions about the server, mission structure, Polyphemus 1, the crew, anything else on the server, feel free to send those along, and we'll be holding that question and answer session at T plus 35. And if you're just tuning in, this is Admiral Radish, PR Director for CAPS. We'll be holding our Q&A session in about 7.5 minutes. So right now, looking at the queue right there, looks like we're getting a nice camera view of the southern tip of India and Sri Lanka, by the looks of it. Just off the back end there of the Polyphemus 1 craft, now in orbit, awaiting for its injection and maneuver nodes here, just about 30 minutes, 35 minutes. And if you're just joining us, now T plus 30 minutes since launch, we've seen a successful recovery of the Staghorn 6 booster. We've seen a successful launch of the Polyphemus 1 module with the crew aboard, 3 crew members here. Yuri, Scott, and Marcia, all experienced Kerbonauts in our save. Marcia, one of the only Kerbonauts with experience beyond low Earth orbit. Very excited to see them all in space today as we're planning for that Q&A session now. In under 5 minutes, please send along questions in the chat. You can send them via Discord, Twitch, or YouTube, and we'll be answering them in real time here in just about 4 minutes. It'll be myself, Admiral Radish, live with our launch director and mission designer for today, Grateful Deadbeat, who identified the mission profile, did the crew selection, rocket design, also the designer of the Staghorn 6 booster. And we'll be going over the remaining mission profile, what it will look like over the next couple days, any adjustments that we have seen since our first mission profile and dossier review this morning. And then lastly, as we finish that Q&A session, we'll look to see the planning of our 2 maneuver burns. Those will be our near-Earth maneuver burns over the course of about the next 30 to 45 minutes before they begin the long voyage to intercept the asteroid, assuming that ending of one of those 2 maneuver nodes will be the end of our coverage today. So right now is your opportunity. Send in any questions you might have about the Polyphemus 1 mission. And as we hit T plus 35 minutes, we'll go ahead and begin our question and answer session as we collate all the questions, getting live views from inside of the capsule right now. You can see there 3 happy Kerbonauts in space, getting ready for a maneuver here in just a little while. I am Admiral Radish, your Public Relations Director, and I am pleased to be joined here today by Grateful Deadbeat, your Mission Director. Grateful, thanks for being here.
Good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for joining us for this momentous occasion and near-perfect launch to our first asteroid visited by
It is a great occasion. We've talked a little bit about the timing of this particular launch. Why don't you give us, you've done a lot of research on this asteroid, why don't you give us some information about it?
Absolutely. So this is asteroid PCP-666. This was not an asteroid that we have named so far. This was the automatic naming catalog system. First of all, it was first discovered on March 5th, 2026. So just a little over 3 months ago now. And maybe about a month after its discovery, we started planning for this mission when we realized that its path would be coming so close to Earth. Our estimates currently put that it passed by Earth 71 years ago in 1955, and after this pass, its orbital path around the Sun will not place it around the vicinity of Earth again for 147 years. And so we won't have the opportunity to see it again until 2173.
I highly doubt. Yeah, I highly doubt either you nor I will be around for that fateful visit here. So, a very, very rare opportunity. What went into planning today's mission?
So the planning, in general, started out as most of our missions do with our Morse probe, which is used to study different orbital paths and maneuvers that we can take when getting to certain bodies. And from there we were able to discern that moving up past our apoapsis in a highly eccentric orbit and then catching up with the orbit as it comes back down, as we also come back down towards Earth, was by far the most efficient way to rendezvous with the object.
Excellent. Very cool. And so we're using the Staghorn 6. What are we expecting our intercept speed to be with this object once we finally get there, based on the intercept that you've planned? If anyone's looking at our SCANsat data, we're currently, the Kerbal IT engineers are hard at work on figuring out why our SCANsat repository appear to have outdated mapping imagery. This is not our complete SCANsat imagery. The IT team is hard at work fixing that one.
And to answer your question, currently we have a relative speed projected of 675 meters a second, which is well within our Delta V budget for this mission.
Excellent, excellent. And so the maneuver plan, we have one coming up here in probably 25, 30-ish minutes here. That's going to be an initial adjustment.
Yep, this is going to be our intercept burn. It's going to be our insertion towards the orbital path of the asteroid. And then the following maneuver is going to be our planar adjustment, which is going to fine-tune that last little bit of inclination that we didn't quite get right with the initial launch, that 1.3 degree inclination.
Which was pretty consistent throughout the whole launch profile, by the looks of it. Good.
Yes.
Good. So we will do our 2 maneuvers. We'll get there to intercept. That intercept time looks like it's in about, what, 8 days? 9 days?
Yep, we have about 8 days until our current intercept. It's probably going to take a few more hours after that because it's going to be a slow approach once we get there. We don't want to rush things. We want to make sure that we are holding at a safe distance, that the Kraken is quiet, not hungry, and
Very
sleeping.
true.
And then once we are all go, we are going to begin construction on the craft itself to make our mount base for the new relay tower being attached to the asteroid itself.
Incredible stuff. In order to prevent Kraken attacks, what steps have you taken in preparation for the mission as the mission controller and the mission designer?
We have confirmed that Yuri Gagarin did bring his magic feather. Ladies and gentlemen, he does have his magic feather. This is very important, as it has proven successful to good luck on other launches. Additionally, we have been tracking this asteroid for a couple days now, and observing its very subtle movements in the server itself, and making sure that everything is nice and stable. So as we approach it, it's not going to do a sudden 3-kilometer hop to one side and smash our
I think we
Kerbonauts.
achieved permanent asteroid stability early this morning, according to Kerbal scientists, about 1540 UTC. We were able to get a permanent lock on the final orbital position of the asteroid, and we do anticipate it will stay there even after attachment. So, great views inside the craft right now. View of Scott and Yuri there, and looking at the orbital speed, 7.7 thousand meters per second. What's going to actually go on the surface of this asteroid, Deadbeat?
Okay, so if we take a look at our service bay, we're not going to open it yet as it is not time, but we can take a little peek. We have all sorts of things going in here. We have a couple of relay dishes, we have probe cores, we have... Stop moving the camera for a second. We have several girders and octagonal struts. There is a cubic octagonal strut in there. There is mystery goo, because we have not gotten a mystery goo reading from outside of Earth's sphere of influence yet. So this will be our first time and opportunity to send one out in a craft, unlike our other long-distance probes that we have sent out, Kronos, Gale Weaver, and Valorant. They all had to be extraordinarily light, so mystery goo was not something that we ever included on them. So this is the first time this experiment will be done in solar space.
Incredible stuff.
Now we do have a camera, claw, 2 solar panels, and a thermonuclear generator.
No, there are some questions from the Regulatory Commission. Is the plan to have the Kerbals handle a raw RTG without any crane assembly?
Now you understand that we have not pulled the little red pull here tag, so the batteries are not in it technically.
Yes.
Once Marsha Craigson pulls out the little red tag, then it
They have
will be
5
operational.
seconds to run away. If they're
5 if they're lucky.
Assuming there's not been a manufacturing defect. So let's look at some of the questions people have been asking about the launch today. First and most important question. What's the origin of this asteroid? What will you do on the asteroid? Are there JUB files on the asteroid?
Now, so the actual asteroid itself is not one of our IRL real-life solar system objects. This is something that was created by the server itself, but we are treating it as if it is a real visitor to Earth. And currently, my theory is that this possibly, due to its orbital path around the sun, this very well may be a fragment of Earth and Theia during the long ago cataclysmic collision between the two celestial objects. We won't know. We don't know its composition. The only way we get to find out is by sending our scientist here, Scott Kent, to the surface and collecting a sample, which will be then retrieved and brought home.
Excellent stuff.
I do not believe there are any files. I don't know anything about that.
No, nothing about files.
But-
no.
We do know its path from the past and into the future. And its last pass was 71 years ago, and its next pass will be 147 years from now.
Are the snacks properly stocked up for the crew?
Yes, absolutely. Snacks were actually a very big recommendation of Yuri Gagarin. As many know, he was on the space station during the 2-week snack drought. Now, that was a disastrous consequence of scrubbing a space station crew flight that was meant to send up the extra snacks for the next tenured crew. That was delayed for 2 weeks, and snacks were brought up on the monthly crew transfer. Yuri Gagarin knows what it's like to be stranded in space with no snacks. Now, Kerbals, they only eat snacks recreationally. As you can see, they do have green bodies which allow them to photosynthesize in the sun. But to be without snacks in space, who wants that? No.
Yeah, it is well established here that Kerbals do photosynthesize, and snacks are merely a pleasure, a recreational partaking rather than a required component of living. Another question of here, so is the plan to actually run the stream for 10 days? There is a strong consideration that we will run the Twitch portion of the stream on this very heavily for the next 10 days. Not permanently.
Yes.
It does get a little bit dull if you exclusively leave it on one craft. Take that from someone who runs a 24/7 Kerbal Twitch stream. But I will certainly be leaning very heavily into it. Also, I need to switch away from it every so often in case one of us needs to take control of it. What would happen if the game were to crash? Absolutely nothing. The server runs and stores all the data up in the cloud for us. And I have been working very diligently to make sure all of that syncing is good in preparation for this mission. It is the furthest away Kerbals have ever been from Earth in our save. I will say that camera turn is looking buttery smooth right now. It's the furthest away
Yes.
Kerbals have been in our save from Earth, so we take it very seriously. If it were to crash, they would continue to drift around. If we were to miss one of the maneuvers, where would they end up? Obviously, this first one, they'll just stay in Earth orbit. If we miss the next one, they'll miss the asteroid and come back around. I assume they come back by Earth periapsis in some number of days.
Yes. The biggest concern here is if we make it to the asteroid and then something happens to their engine, because then they will be on the path to escape Earth's gravitational pull and be flung out among the stars in a position that does not come back around for 147
Which
years.
we will not let happen.
That is the big scary. We will not be letting happen. We are going to be taking every precaution to make sure these 3 Kerbals get home safely with all their strength, health, and the valor, so they can be awarded their medals for their courageous effort.
And boy, do they deserve it. This is an interesting one. Definitely the first time I believe we're launching crew with any chance of an Earth SOI exit.
That would be correct, yes. This will be the first time they have had a escape velocity at Earth.
Crazy. Are we using Kraken drives? No, never. We don't use Kraken drives. They're banned on this.
Kraken
They're
drives
banned
are
on this
forbidden,
server.
yes.
Is the mystery goo edible?
Xenon. Mystery goo is a mystery. We don't understand fully what the mystery goo is. So to understand, instead of putting it through a spectrometer or a centrifuge or even trying to ignite it to see its boiling point, we prefer to put it in certain situations around different bodies and see how it reacts.
Is there oil on the asteroid?
We do not know yet. However, oil as we know it on Earth is a fossilized composite of prehistoric algae. And should we find prehistoric algae on the asteroid, there are going to be
I was about to say, what are the implications?
than a
What are
war
the
with the United
implications for
States.
science if we do find prehistoric microalgae and microbiomes on an asteroid?
Yeah, we will burn that bridge when we cross it.
Well, great.
As the
That
old saying
covers
goes.
our question and answer session for this one. I have some questions for you. We've talked about Polyphemus 1. There are definitely some big milestones we want to mark on this mission. One of them is Polyphemus 1 seems to imply that there are future Polyphemus missions in the works.
Oh, that is absolutely correct. There are 2 captured asteroids around Earth right now. CPP 545, I believe. 546 and QHL 039. Both of these are easily as large or larger than PCP 666, and both of them are within our range to actually visit. However, CPP is moving in a retrograde orbit around the Earth. And not only that, it is in a path that puts it going past the moon from time to time. And this has been observed once, roughly about a month ago. It moved its orbit ever so slightly, but we do believe it'll pass by the moon again within the next 3 orbits.
And that could have implications, obviously, if it continues to get closer and closer in the future, of potentially throwing it out of Earth. So,
yes.
No guarantee.
QHL is a higher likelihood of being able to throw it out. There are plans, or not even plans, just sort of theories and suggestions that we could attach a drilling system and resource conversion module to the side of the asteroid, and then through nuclear engines, slowly but surely push it out and into the sun's sphere of influence. And these are all ideas for possible Polyphemus 2 and 3. Of course, if another asteroid ever passes by, we are going to take the opportunity, if we can, to go and visit it, as these are visitors that only come by every so often. They are remarkable opportunities for us to have new and exciting targets to launch to.
But we will say there is a particular focus on this because it is a very large asteroid that is also flying by.
Now, another thing I will add that probably hasn't been brought up, so the initial idea behind the Polyphemus mission was to simply attach a power source and a camera to the side of an asteroid so we could have views of it as it moved away from Earth. As the idea developed further, we added relays and a few other science components, but the initial idea was to place an individual camera on an asteroid, giving it one eye. And this was the idea behind the naming. Polyphemus is the Cyclops from Homer's The Odyssey. And given that this mission would be giving the asteroid a single individual eye, it was fitting for us to name it after a Cyclops.
Amazing stuff. Amazing stuff so far. This asteroid is not possible to kidnap. One of the estimates of the weight of the asteroid put it at 150 billion tons. So there would be absolutely no way to capture the asteroid based on our current estimations. And then would we gain any science if we brought an asteroid back to Earth? No. No, not currently. Looks like we're just getting the first views of sunrise there from the craft. Now T plus 54 minutes. The crew having launched from Algeria almost an hour ago. Just about to see the sun.
You can see some of those clouds.
Yes, peeking through the clouds there in the upper atmosphere. Look at that. Just a great view. The first sunrise.
And we will be deploying the solar panels and communication dish on the service module itself once we separate away from the orbital insertion stage.
One question, why bring a crew? We want to make sure that we can do construction in real time. Otherwise, you would have to build, if you've ever tried to attach to a real solar system scale asteroid before, they can extend quite deep into the surface, so it becomes a trial and error. If you have crew, they can test the surface and feel the surface, and as was noted in a paper by our mission controller here, Grateful Deadbeat, Kerbals retain the unique ability to spaghettify under extreme stress and strain. Whereas a craft would explode and buckle and break, Kerbal can merely bounce off of a surface that would otherwise be impossible to navigate. So the bringing along of a crew actually enables us to poke and prod the surface and to explore the surface, do science, gain EVA reports, do EVA construction, while also ensuring that the point to which we finally attach the probe on the asteroid, making it a permanent addition to the server, is a good, real spot on the asteroid that accurately matches the meshing and texturing and surfacing. The spaghettification of Kerbals is, of course, an extremely unique feature and function of their biology. For more information, read the published paper by Grateful Deadbeat. So, with that, we seems to be the end of our questions from our question and answer session. I certainly do appreciate any who have come to listen. We're now within 5 minutes to that first burn. We'll stand by eagerly for the status of that burn, but mostly, Grateful Deadbeat, thank you for being here.
Absolutely, and thank you for everybody across the world for joining us.
It's always a great pleasure to have people here with us as we undertake these missions. If you have not seen it before, this is a great time to check out our website, KerbalRealtime.com, KerbalRealtime.com, where there is a live map which actually shows the missions in real time.
My favorite use of it, you can see our active mission calendar. You can go there and click on calendar and see what we have coming up, what we had going on in previous months, and keep up with just what we got going on.
Taking a look here at the website.
We are T-minus 3 minutes 10 seconds, T-minus 1 minute 30 seconds until burn.
Continuing to get closer, some more information. You can see the Polyphemus launch today, and then in a couple days we'll have a trajectory adjustment for Spes Valorant, which is our probe heading to Saturn. Crazy to think, how long ago did we launch that now? 2 months ago?
2 months ago, yeah.
How the time flies.
And stand by for engine ignition. We are going to be burning up the last fuel in the orbital insertion stage and then moving to the fuel in the service module. And that was the short
Excellent
burn.
Stuff. Waiting.
And we have
There we go.
separation of the second stage.
So now here we go. We're in approximately a 3-minute burn. This is what will do the majority of our remaining intercept work, as we just hit T plus 1 hour. About a third of the way through that burn now. This is what's going to take them most of the way to that intercept with Asteroid PCP-666. There will be another adjustment burn for the plane adjustment here, as the mission director was talking about here, as we continue to get closer and closer now to a final intercept.
And one more interesting thing to point out, when we arrive to the point where we are going, the moon is actually going to be just underneath us, so we will be right above the north pole of the moon as we approach this asteroid.
How about that? Still continuing through that burn now. All looking good so far. As we get closer and closer to the end of the burn.
Beginning engine throttle down right about now.
Looking very good so far. And we're ready for the next maneuver. This will be our plane adjustment maneuver. So far, all looking good.
After we build this.
That will be taking place here in just about, what's that, 16 minutes and 45 seconds. So that'll put our final maneuver for the day right at about the hour and 20-minute mark past launch. So if you're just joining us, we're tracking along the Polyphemus 1 mission. Just made their injection burn, which will be sending them in transit to intercept Asteroid PCP-666. We're seeing those final adjustments now of the maneuver node. That'll be our plane adjustment, which will finalize the distance between the two when they finally intersect in a few days' time. If you're looking in real time, that final separation now, they're currently hundreds of millions of meters apart, 824 million meters apart, and that final correction there so far, just at about 1.1 thousand kilometers. So there we see now. Burton is in approximately 11 minutes and 40 seconds. That'll get us within 500 kilometers. And that will set us up for the final course adjustment burn in a couple days' time. So now we'll begin the final waiting process. That'll last 12 minutes as we wait for the 154 meter per second burn, which will put us within 500 kilometers, intersect with the asteroid. Also seen, now that we're separated from the second stage, the kick stage, we're seeing the deployment of the antenna and the solar panels in real time. Yuri, Scott, and Marcia on board. There we see them deployed in a configuration, beginning the long journey away from Earth. Now passing. You can see how quickly they're going. Almost 1,900 kilometers above Earth. Multiple times, 6 times roughly, the altitude of the collaborative space station at this point. So for Yuri and Scott, this is the furthest they have been from Earth, and for Marcia, very similar to her previous voyage to the moon, when she flew by the moon. We can see where they're going on a trip far away from the surface of Earth. That final maneuver node now, and the last maneuver of our coverage today.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your flight director, Grateful Deadbeat speaking. It is time for everybody's favorite fun game, Unplanned EVA.
Yuri Gagarin out in space. A prime view. The very first astronaut ever flown in our server, now out in space. Always a good time on Unplanned EVA. Now about 8 minutes. 8 minutes until our final burn and the end of our coverage for today. Godspeed, Yuri Gagarin. First Kerbal in space. Now on a mission away from the surface of Earth, after previously spending just 5 days ago landing from a 6-week journey with Scott Kent out on the collaborative space station. And just in the time we've been talking, already another 800 kilometers gone. You can see the speed they're heading away now. And almost all of that will be lost by the time we intercept with the asteroid, now in about 8.5 days' time. Getting a great view there, yep, of the coast of the Americas, west coast of the Americas, Baja, California on the top left there, stretching all the way down to the Andes on the bottom right. Just a great view. Darien Gap in there, Riviera, Cuba. Just at the very tippy top you can see Florida, poking through the clouds. The Amazon rainforest, the lungs of Earth, on the right side of your screen there. A view, top down, of the Polyphemus 1 module, now heading outbound to the asteroid for intercept in about 8.5 days. Within 10 minutes now, to that final burn, final maneuver burn, we'll do our plane change, do our course adjustment, should put us within 500 kilometers intercept with the asteroid. That'll be the reduction from our current distance away, about 800 million kilometers. Piloting today, Grateful Deadbeat, making all of your maneuvers, adjustments. If you haven't, after the stream finishes today, I strongly recommend you go back and listen to the QA section, which talks about our mission planning and the criteria for the mission. Took place at about T+35. But if you've been listening along so far, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your time and your contributions. These missions are made possible by taxpayers like you, and it means the world to us to have you here. Now, we here at Kerbal Realtime would like to say that we take the spending, use, and contribution that taxpayers like you give to our agency very seriously, and it's the contributions that enable us to train astronauts like Yuri and Scott and Marcia, as well as prepare for the upcoming Kerbonauts draft, which will be happening on July 1st of this year, where each of our agencies will be able to take on a fresh crop of astronauts in order to complement our currently existing crew. This will enable more station operations, longer station operations. Limitations on the number of roles at each agency certainly do have implications on how long we can send them away for. But as we sit here and look at this great shot right over Central America, I just want to say that this mission is made possible by contributions from taxpayers like you. As a word from Admiral Radish and Grateful Deadbeat, thank you for your support. And as we're now just within about 2 minutes of that final burn, So far, we want to recap everything that's happened successfully on today's mission. Takeoff, 1636 UTC, now an hour and a half ago, from Algeria. Recovery of the Staghorn 6 booster took place in the deserts of North Africa and the far eastern Mediterranean. The crew continued onto orbit, successful initial orbit, successful launch to the correct inclination within about 1.3 degrees. We saw the use of that kick stage, that Rhino kick stage, to get them the first part of that transfer. And the service module here has done the rest of the work so far, now sending them away from Earth. We had unplanned EVA, as is tradition around here in these crewed missions, especially these special crewed missions. And now we're waiting for the plane and inclination adjustment burn. This will bring that current intercept down to about 500 kilometers in preparation for a final adjustment in a few days' time, which will set the final intercept time and standoff time for our meeting with the asteroid, PCP-666. That happening in about 8.5 days, currently estimated. Correction, that was about an hour and 20 minutes ago, not an hour and a half. You can see here on that mission clock now, just past 1 hour and 22 minutes. Closer and closer we're getting as we make that final burn, about 10 seconds here. With that, we have our plane inclination done. A little bit of a speed adjustment still to do. But otherwise, we have taken what is a distance of about 800 million meters. We're adjusting that down now to its final components. Just a little bit of a speed adjustment to do. You can see the craft reorienting now. Move that timer just a little bit for everyone's sake. Watching that adjustment happen now. Right where we want to be, right about 500 kilometers there. So we look at that final mission time now. 1 hour, 23 minutes, 22 seconds from launch to our first close intersect with the asteroid. Now we can see the craft pointing forward, everything deployed, crew on board, solar panels out, everything looking good so far, as this craft is now on its way to intercept the asteroid. If you've been following along today, we thank you so much for being here, and thank you for all the good wishes to our crew. Yuri Gagarin, Scott Kent, Marcia Craigson, on their way to the asteroid. We'll be updating the mission calendar and the timeline on KerbalRealtime.com, or you can follow along at our Discord server. If this is your first time here, we very much appreciate you being here. We strongly recommend you come and join the taxpayers who fund missions like these, and we'll be heading towards the sort of northeast coast of America by the looks of it, as we get a view here over Central America, North and South America, oriented right there for the end of our stream. I have been Admiral Radish, and Grateful Deadbeat was piloting today. We thank you both for being here.
And thank you very much, everyone, for being here.
For being here, and we appreciate your time. Have a great day. And if you're just joining, we're watching the current Polyphemus 1 mission drifting away from Earth. Having just launched about an hour and 40 minutes ago from Algeria. Just getting a live view now of the craft on its outbound trajectory. 8 days now. 8 days until it reaches its target. Live streaming, no warp, Kerbal real time. And if you're just joining us, you can see a perfectly stable, normal capsule on the screen. Nothing amiss or out of place here. In a gentle, stable, normal spin with no concerns at all. We just a minute ago asked the crew to perform a thermal spin in order to prevent uneven heating on the sides of the craft, which, as you can see, is going totally fine. Nothing amiss. Do not scroll back in the footage. This is a live craft view of the Polyphemus 1 mission. 3 crew on board. Yuri Gagarin, first Kerbal in space. Scott Kent, first established scientist of the Collaborative Space Station. And Marcia Craigson, engineer on the Regolith 1 mission to fly by the moon. 3 experienced Kerbonauts on board. Getting a view here of the Polyphemus 1 capsule, currently in a thermal spin, now over the northern Atlantic Ocean. First getting the view of the United States and South America there. North America, South America on the left side of the globe. And then on the right side, just starting to see the north coast of Africa. A little bit of Europe there on the top right of the globe. Continuing to fly away from Earth. Now the furthest any of these 3 Kerbals will have ever gone is on this mission when they intercept the asteroid PCP-666 in approximately 8.5 days. Now, almost 2 hours since launch.